Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. Hello. Welcome to episode 43 of Everything Teams Phone Live. We are Brandon, you and I, and Tom A. and Tom Morgan. We're all live. We're all in London. Hi, everyone.
Physically in the same place.
Same place, except for Tom Morgan. But we're here in London, and there was a lot going on here, and there's a lot to cover, so we need to get to the content. But we're out here at a telecom show. Tom Morgan is still at a show in the convention center, hanging out with a bunch of CX organizations and understanding and showing what the best and brightest are coming up with for CX solutions for the enterprise. Okay, well, episode 43, we're going to kick this thing off. We got Tom Arbuthnot in the room with us. He's going to cover Ignite for us because Microsoft unveiled a whirlwind of information, and he's going to condense it, break it down for us, and tell us what's going to have the most impact. Tom, welcome to the show.
Yeah, nice to be back. Nice to do it in person. I think it's the first time we've done it in person. That's exciting.
Yeah, pretty darn exciting.
I guess we went live with Tom Morgan one time in person, but that was in Colorado, Denver, Colorado.
That was in Denver.
I was trying to remember which Tom it was.
That's right.
We blend together.
All right, so there you go. So Brandon, how's the trip been for you here in London?
It's been productive, a lot of meetings. I was just telling Tom A here that I think I'm like 4 days in and running on like barely 12 hours of sleep. So if you see my head just hit my keyboard while we're talking, it means I've fallen asleep.
I heard there was a dehydration issue.
There is. I jokingly said anytime I come to Europe, water is like, air is a basic right? And in the US, water, you can get water anywhere. You can get it anytime you want it. And it seems like in Europe, it's a different mindset.
You can get drinks anyway.
You can get things with water in it. Lots of adult beverages.
I was thinking beer is probably
it's mostly water.
Mostly. But it dehydrates you. So I'm also running quite a bit dehydrated from what I'm used to because I drink a ton of water at home.
And now it's just beer.
And now it's beer.
So it doesn't sound like a problem to me.
Where is the problem with that? Okay, all right. Well, Tom, Tom A, let's kick this off because you had a lot of reporting come back from Ignite. Were you in at Ignite?
No, I was remote actually.
Okay.
So I'm over for Enterprise Connect is my next stateside thing, but I followed it all online, so I'm fully up to speed.
All right, that's exciting. Okay, well, what's impactful for the customer? You got to for the viewers because Everything Teams Phone Live. We cater to the selling crowd. We cater to the enterprises who are looking to move to Microsoft Teams Phone.
The partner crowd.
And so everyone's looking for, I guess, a simple way to understand what's happening. How is it going to impact their organization? How it could impact an opportunity if you're a seller into an organization. Those are the things that we're interested in understanding. And not Ignite was 2 days long. 3 days?
3 days.
So lots of information.
Tons. And Ignite is the whole of Microsoft. So it's Azure, it's AI, it's the whole Microsoft 365 stack. So we brought together all the things that are Teams and modern work. So, and if you just care about phone, and we talked about this at Cavell that you guys were at, you need to know about the rest of what's going on in Microsoft to have a story with your customers because they want to know the entire stack story, not just the phone story. So that being said, Copilot was the big announcement, right? So like everything is about AI at Microsoft at the moment. Everything is Copilot, and Copilot is coming to Teams Phone and Teams Channels as well as the rest of Teams. So that was the big one.
Well, at the Cavell show, we had a lot of Microsoft representation there. And part of the keynote there was a demo or show, a real small demo on Copilot in Teams Phone. And some of the things that I thought were really, really helpful, particularly if we take calls into a CRM or if we take calls on a regular basis and use data from your customers, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. The big addition that they've announced now is that you'll be able to go and look at your PSTN or VoIP calls after the event. So you can have Copilot running during the call, but a week later when you can't remember, what Rick promised to Tom or what Tom promised to Rick, you can be like, oh, well, Copilot, who said what were the actions? So it becomes your kind of permanent personal assistant over your calls and meetings.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Tom. The other piece was, I think, part of at the Cavell when Tamor was talking, the Copilot on PSTN calls was also like consultant transfer, where you can take and instantly summarize what you've already talked about provide it to
Totally.
the person you're transferring to, and then make that transfer for that seamless connection.
So what I'm understanding is that you don't like the experience when you call into an organization, you have a discussion with the first person you talk to, and they go, "Oh, wait a minute, we need to get you over here," and then repeating yourself. Is that right?
Oh, it's
not optimal.
Yeah. So here's a question for either of you guys, both of you Toms. Are you aware of any other, I'll call it cloud PBX solutions? So besides Teams, whether that's Zoom, Cisco, RingCentral, whoever, that is doing AI real time on the PSTN leg of the call?
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, we know all the big players playing, right? So at some point this will level out, but I think Microsoft have got the lead on the PSTN element. Zoom have bundled AI across their stack as well, so it will come. The big thing that Microsoft have that the other platforms wouldn't is their Copilot stretches over SharePoint, over email, as well as over meeting and calls.
Yeah.
So again, we can be like, go to Copilot and say, what were the latest conversations I had with Rick and Brad at G12, and it will span email, chat, meetings, calls, and bring all that together, which is super powerful.
That is, I mean, you see the data that it distributes, and you can see it just, I mean, if you're a salesperson, as an example, and you want to capture the information and load it into a CRM or have it available for you, for anyone else in the organization to identify, it's all there.
Well, we were talking earlier about omnichannel, which kind of different, but when you think about back office workers, this really creates the back office omnichannel, because it brings it all together into, however you want it summarized, or
it brings all your different modalities together.
Interesting perspective. And Tom, here's where you can, Tom Morgan, this is directed right at you. AI, if you think about AI, and let's not use Copilot for a moment. Let's just talk about AI in general. AI, and I'd be curious to see what you're in favor of, or what you would see more of, or expect to see more of. AI out in front, customer facing, and enabled for customers, or AI behind the scenes, enabling the agent and or people working the queries or the interactions.
Yeah, the answer is both, but it's the order, right? So AI in front, yeah, maybe eventually. I think that companies are worried about when it goes wrong, when it doesn't work right. So there's kind of that risk of like reputational damage, or just looking a bit silly if you roll this stuff out too early. Whereas if you can roll it out internally to agents, you're providing additional value to agents, which is good on a number of fronts. It's a good test bed because they're your people. It's a good way of training and improving the AI. But also genuinely, it's empowering your agents, who I think more and more companies are coming around or realizing that it's actually quite important, that interaction between first line workers, agents, those people who are talking directly to your customers, have been, maybe underinvested in over the years. And I think that's changing a little bit because customers are demanding better and better experiences. So I see both, but it's like, internal is easier to do for all sorts of reasons, especially if you're coming to it for the first time. But longer term, you can sort of imagine how it's a good way of reducing kind of the workload of those agents by taking away those repetitive type tasks that can be better handled with something like AI.
Right. That's kind of what we were thinking. We had a discussion, and it was interesting because we were on the same page with Luware yesterday. And Luware is in the Teams contact center, right? And that discussion was a high priority for us when we were going through what is their priority, and where is AI going to play in the contact center. And we talked about helping the agents to kind of first and foremost.
Yeah, that's the safe first step, right? Because if the AI is imperfect, you've got a person between the AI and the actual customer. I'm sure it will come to customer facing, but it's a much more careful step for the enterprise.
And the smart companies are as they roll out internally, they're putting so much telemetry around it. They're like, how good was this answer? They're asking the agents to feed back into the system. So they're making their own models and improving them so that they are in a good place in 3 years' time, 5 years' time, to flip the switch and be like, we're so confident in this model because over the last 6 months, no agent has ever said that was a terrible answer, that sort of thing. If you can be
Yeah,
measuring, that's
good
how
one.
you win.
Is in the contact center space, and again, you're at the show, so you're involved with everyone there. Is in the contact center space is one call resolution, one call completion. Is that still a measured KPI for
Yeah.
contact centers? So
It is because it represents such a huge cost saving. If you can get away without making the ticket in the system, you save so much money. So yeah, it is still. It's also a customer sat thing. But yeah, it's driven by like that cost. If you can do that one call resolution, it drives down the cost, a lot. So yeah.
I bet we're going to get to, did it need a human contact resolution will be the next thing. It's like, how much can the AI, because we've seen that with websites, like they try and, how much can you self-service before you need an agent?
Right.
So how much can the AI handle before you need an agent?
And that's where that's the kind of the line that you kind of bounce upon. Do you put it all out in front and see if you can get that one call to completion without having an agent?
Yeah.
Or do you kind of train it, and then kind of slowly blend it in? That's going to be an interesting sort of dynamic, I think, as we start to move into customer-centric organizations.
I wonder if we'll see a nominate yourself into AI type scenario. So you phone a contact center and it can be like, you can wait 7 minutes for a human or press 1 to try our AI, and then you're nominating yourself in to that scenario. So you're in a safe space where the customer said, I'll give it a go. I'm happy to give feedback. Because I'd always press 1 to say, like I want opening hours. I want to know my balance. Like the easy AI task.
Yeah, right. That's interesting because there are calls for, I'd like to know if I'm working with AI, right? So that's an easy way to kind of delineate, like, okay, you are or you're not.
And do my customers want to or not?
Right. Put it in their hands. That's great.
You got that one for free.
That's good.
I think the other debate, which I think we're talking to Luware about, is how much of your brand reputation do you really want to put out there in the hands of AI until you're, I think Tom Morgan, you said it, until you're 3,000% confident that it's going to be right every time.
And your vertical matters as well. If you're in legal, if you're in finance, if you're in insurance, what you say has liability in every
ramifications.
Scenario. So you're endorsing the AI. I mean, if you're in retail, you're dealing with returns and stuff, less high stakes.
Right. Well, that's going to be interesting as we kind of dive into that. What we will live in some really this is exciting stuff, right? And if you're in the communication space, this is it's all a massive shift, and it's pretty exciting for all of us. So, Tom, what else came out of Ignite that we find interesting?
Yeah, so we also had some phone updates. So voice isolation. This is really cool. This is training teams on your personal voice.
Do you want me to put your slides up?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I've got a picture.
I could see you sharing, but I was like, I don't know if you want your slides up for now.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. So you can see a few of the features here. So voice isolation, training teams on your personal voice, and it will cancel out anybody else talking as well. So previously we had noise cancellation that will take out general background noise, but this is specifically taking out anybody other than you, which is really cool. Private line, so everything old is new again, right? We've had this on classic PBXs forever. This is the secondary number to get through to you that bypasses your DND, your receptionist, your auto attendant.
Let's stop there for a second, because that solves a lot of problems for people that sit in groups, or that you want to put in groups, to have a private line, your own DID, if you will, and the company DID if you're sitting behind a shared license or sitting behind a group. And so you've got 2 ways to take those calls. Are the rules going to be set up? And I don't know, I'm just this is from a setup perspective, so that you can do what's it called now, where you've got the choice to how do you treat an incoming call when you're already on a call? It's like
busy on busy.
Busy on busy. Is that going to be a choice with the?
That's a good question. I imagine private line will cut through everything, because the idea, obviously, you get toast, so you can still accept or decline it. But yeah, the idea is this is the number you give to your wife or your fiance when they're hitting the shops, Rick, and they can get straight through to you whatever's happening.
Okay, all right, that's going to be exciting. Website click to call.
Yeah, this goes into ACF, so Tom can throw into this for sure. But Microsoft are kind of riding the Teams branding, because everybody knows Teams, 320 million active users. So this is having a plugin in your website to one-click call through to Teams phone. I think, Tom, this is voice only at the moment, but obviously you can do.
I think so. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Is it only voice? only right now at the moment?
I missed that. Sorry.
Tom Morgan, is it voice only? Is that what? what
Yeah,
you
no,
were
I think
gonna
it
do?
is voice only, and there's no reason why it couldn't be video. I don't think technically, but I think it is voice only at the moment. My guess is behind the scenes it's using Azure Communication Services. There's been, lots and lots of work done in the back end there, and Teams and Azure Communication Services run on the same kind of infrastructure anyway, so it's kind of an easy technical plugging together. But it's exciting, but it's good for those kind of customer care like B2C scenarios.
I think it's going to be great. Like that's one of the things that I think is probably sliding in under a list of things that are exciting, and maybe they're not capturing a lot of excitement, but the website click to call. If you're shopping here in Europe as an example, you see the WhatsApp link on a lot of websites, right? So. And they use it for business, but in the U.S. we haven't adopted really WhatsApp from a business perspective. And so if you look at Teams, and Teams being the one sort of aggregation component or screen for a user, and having a website click to call as a way to engage your customer, it seems to me like that's going to gain a lot of traction. I think it's a well overlooked feature.
Yeah, and it's consumption based, so you can work with smaller organizations that couldn't afford all the crazy dev to do website integration. Microsoft have frameworked all this out for you. You're already a Teams customer. Why not just add this to your website as another option?
Yeah.
Well, I think the other important thing to call out is it also bridges the gap between toll expenses, especially like I'm a U.S. citizen in London. I'm not necessarily going to pick up my cell phone and dial a 44 number, right? Because it's going to cost me a grundle to make that phone call versus click to call. I'm bypassing.
Yeah.
Unless I'm in India, we won't go there.
But that's interesting because it's an additional thing that leads to not the degradation, but the
reduction in
PSTN traffic, right? I mean, I think we've had this discussion before, but does Microsoft Teams become the de facto PSTN at some point with the amount of users?
Yeah, I mean, we see it with more and more when organizations adopt Teams. Obviously, all the internal calling becomes VoIP, and when you're federated, then you naturally start with chat, you escalate to VoIP. So for sure.
Then throw in Teams Phone Mobile.
Well, yeah.
That's a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
Or
potentially
could be a lot of traffic. I mean, if you think about what's the PSTN traffic today, it's like 80% mobile.
But yeah, I think most people reach for their mobile if they have one.
Right. So if you look at that and you go, okay, Teams Phone Mobile, if it has the penetration that they're expecting it to have, like Teams becomes a really significant PSTN provider.
So talking of that, shared calling. So I'd like to get your guys' perspective on this. So this is Microsoft enabling you to have the classic channels and trunks model with Teams. So you can have thousands of users all share a set number of channels, and they don't have a DDI inbound, so they can make outbound calls, but you'd redirect the inbound to the receptionist or the main number or the auto attendant, basically. And Microsoft are positioning this as lighting up people that wouldn't otherwise want to buy a per user DDI and a per user kind of consumption model. Well, what do you guys think on this?
Well, we had I would say we had I guess a room full of people virtually over and over going through the model that we thought we could adopt for this product. And we thought about the trunks and DIDs model. It didn't work well with our software component, our software layer. And so what we decided on was usage. And for us, it's an easy way to not be underwater for any one component, right?
Yeah.
It's an easy way for us to track the volume, and then at the end of the day, who cares about the users? Let's just go ahead and enable cost per minute on there. So we went with a usage model for shared calling.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to speak to not present experience, but previous experience coming from a very large, like 100,000 plus enterprise environment, where they were. I think there's a use case for both a channel-based model and a per minute based model, based on the appetite from the business. So being able to make an outbound call if I need to, but I don't need a dedicated phone number, and that represents maybe 10,000 of my employees. I, as a corporation, might look at it and go, man, I can tell my users aren't making phone calls, so I'm going to go for maybe a per minute, because now I've got PSTN capability, but it's going to cost me maybe $50 a month
Yeah.
for that enablement versus a committed per channel per month model.
Yeah, I'd see a couple of use cases here. Is one might be the migration. So let's start off with, we've already got the licenses. Let's light up outbound, and then we'll work out how we port our DDIs and do the rest of that. And the other one is I never ever intended to give those users DDIs, but they've got E5 or they've got Teams Phone, or certain states, certain countries. I'm supposed to give my people the ability to do 911, 999. Like they need an outbound option, so you tick that box from a compliance point of view.
Yeah, and I that's going to be the one interesting component is the 911 component in the United States, because if I'm a remote workforce doing shared calling, I have to somehow reconcile. We have laws governing how a callback has to occur.
Yeah.
So there's still, I think, a lot of logistics as service providers that we need to figure out.
Yeah, I think you guys are ahead of the curve though. We were talking about this at Cavell, like not all the telcos are embracing this because they like the strict per user per DDI model.
Yeah.
So I'm watching carefully which of the OCs are interested in this and having this conversation and which are less so.
I like the just going back to what you thought use cases were for. The migration is pretty interesting. That's again, migration tools become more and more important as the customers start to migrate from legacy PBX more often now. When we started out in OC, we were taking a lot of users that were either A, already on calling plans, or B, already on other voice over IP providers, cloud PBX providers.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing more and more customers come to us from physical phone systems. So that the penetration is starting to really start to displace that embedded base of physical PBXs.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so part of that project is you could light them up instantly for outbound while you work out the migration and the DDIs, and the users get to roll into it slowly, try it out, do some soft phone calls. It's a nice first step.
I'm writing that one down too. That one's also free.
There'll be a bill at the end, Rick.
That's right. That's right. All right. Protected voicemail notification.
Yeah, this is a relatively niche one, but just a nice tick in the box. So if you have protected voicemail, which is encrypted voicemail, it used to show up in your email, but not in Teams. Now you get notification in Teams, which is really nice. And common area phones on Android. This is another niche one, but interesting. You can put a common area or a shared device license on an Android mobile now. So that means you can take a hardened Android-based phone like a SpectraLink or others, and put an $8 license on that, light it up for voice, and you get a Wi-Fi based calling scenario for retail, for construction. So rather than having to roll out a massive debt solution, you can just buy these fairly commoditized Android, run them in kiosk, have a shared device between workers.
On the protected voicemail, I'm going to go up with that's great, the Android device, but the protected voicemail for just a moment. I feel like we've run across a scenario where a customer didn't want the voicemail to play on the phone, on the physical handset in the office because there was no password to protect that. Is that also covered in this?
Yeah, effectively this would tell you in Teams there's a voicemail waiting, and then you can go back to your email to be aware of it, basically. So previously you weren't aware unless you check your email.
Got it. Okay,
I think it's niche because you inevitably check your email, right? But obviously somebody wanted to push for it.
Yeah, but in our use case, it was a large law firm that they had.
That's right.
It's client, there's client attorney privilege protected.
Yeah.
So
in theory, somebody could walk up and press a button.
Right.
I think this is a good step for Microsoft.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's pivot a little bit. And Tom Morgan, what are you seeing out on the expo floor there, and what's new in the Ignite or the Microsoft world for CX or API?
Yeah, I mean, so to answer, let's talk about Ignite first, I guess. So obviously, yes, Copilot stuff was everywhere, and that's true for developers as well. Microsoft 365 Copilot Studio will let developers build their own Copilots. And then the other thing is the extensibility model for Copilot. So the ability for developers to take their existing solutions and make extensions for Copilot. So you can tell Copilot that actually you're really good at answering questions about booking flights or whatever it is, and then it will call out to your code if it thinks that that's the right thing to do. You can kind of load it up with you tell it the things you can do, and that's going to light up lots of sort of Copilot doing things rather than just answering questions about things. So you can imagine these hooks into legacy systems, approve the holiday, book this, book that, all that sort of stuff. And then the other big area is bringing your data that you've got elsewhere, bringing it into Copilot, so that it can get indexed, so that then it can like live alongside your data that lives in Microsoft 365 at the moment, and can be something that Copilot is aware of. Those are the sort of two big areas of extension. So there's lots of sort of coverage of those. Then there's been good development in the Azure Communication Services space as well. Quite a lot of things that were preview have gone GA. So rather than any sort of big new announcements, there's lots of tools that we've been sort of playing with for a while, but haven't really been able to put into production, that we now can. So that's like call automation, some extensive stuff there around really good and easy to use speech recognition and text to speech. Again, for some of the scenarios we were just talking about, actually. All that's now really easily built into Azure Communication Services. So you can ask people, is this right? Is this, what, describe your question, like whatever, and do the text to speech stuff as well. And on Job Router as well, which is not something you'd think of as a communication service, but it's like an abstraction over that problem of like, I've got a person and I need to route them to an agent. You could use it for anything. It's just like abstract job router, but the fact they've built it into ACS makes it very easy for people to kind of plug these pieces together and say, like, take an incoming number, answer it, say some nice words, go and find an agent, connect them. So that's kind of interesting.
Okay, I've got a question. So specific to building your own Copilots, would you say it's going to be fairly easy to compile a set of data, albeit maybe transcribe videos or data sheets and things like that, and create some sort of not Q&A, but some sort of a query, ask Jeeves,
Yep.
something like that, get information back? Is that gonna be really easy?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. In a short answer, yes, it is. So that's what the Microsoft 365 Copilot Studio is about. It's like bring your repository of expert data, wrap a large language model around it. Like, here's your new bots. That's one way of doing it. The other thing is the Teams AI library, which is more driven as a sort of less low code, more of a sort of full stack solution built on top of bot framework. And I think will really quickly become the default way of writing bots now in Teams. Which is to start with their library, which you can then extend, and you can bring any language model to it really, but it works sort of well with Teams, and you can very quickly put together a bot built around a language model, and then you tell it the things it can do.
Like, he's done it with all our Empowering Cloud data. He's got it all indexed. You ask a bot and it pings up the answer and some recommended video. So
this is the beautiful thing. I mean, we talked about this yesterday a little bit, and I think for learning in an organization, right, and transferring information in an organization, that's going to be huge. Because usually there's this big gap between the people that know something and the people that should know something, right? Because maybe the call doesn't get to them first or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
But putting all that information in a in a bot, if you will, and delivering it via a Q&A that's you can ask it in 100 different ways, and it comes out with the same answer because it understands what you're looking for.
Yeah. And critically, it references where the content is. So like here's the quick answer. If you want to know more, here's where you want to go. So you bypass all those kind of samey questions you get time and time again. Pre-sales is like the obvious win in our space.
Right.
Yeah. It's the same type of questions. How does team phone licensing work? How do I deal with a site that needs local connectivity? Those kind of questions come up again and again.
I can give you another example. I'll give you another example, just because it's not quite as useful an example, but it is an example. So I've just come from ESPC, and I gave a talk there, and a demo part of that talk was around some of the new call automation stuff. So it's like I made this bot that you could dial into, and you could ask it questions about the conference. So I ingested the conference program into a large language model, right? So you could do the things you might expect, like what sessions shall I go and see about Microsoft Graph or something like that. But then I could ask it questions like, I'm really lazy and I don't like moving around to different rooms, but I am interested in Microsoft Teams. So what's the one room I should sit in to see the majority of sessions, right? Which is like a silly question, but also maybe it's not such a silly question if you like, disability and accessibility, right? What if you don't want to move rooms? And actually, it did a really good job of like, actually, the majority of rooms about Teams are in this room, so go to this one and stay there all day. You know, so stuff like that. Yeah.
That's awesome. This is it's one of those things where I mean I know people are expecting it to be, when you think of Chat GPT or you think of Copilot, you think it's okay. This is it answers a few questions for me, etc. But the impact that it's going to have to organizations that are training individuals that need to train individuals, this is a huge productivity gain whenever you have something like this built. And if you're how quickly and easily it can be put together. Before, if you ask someone to do a knowledge base as an example, there's your right. A knowledge base was a monster project to put together. Sometimes never gets done. Is constantly needed to be updated, and it's not easy to do.
And you never had feedback with knowledge base. You
Right.
built it, and it was a website basically. So maybe you get some analytics about do people use it or not, but you never knew what they were going there for really. Whereas now you're going to see the input. So you're like, oh, they keep asking this question. We need to add content for that. And it's back to that same as the context and scenario. It trains itself and gets better and better and better.
And that's the beautiful thing about the language model in AI is it's going to get to a point where I don't even necessarily need to go look for that pattern. AI is going to probably give me the summary and say,
yeah, these are your gaps.
Hey, dummy, you need to go create this content.
Yeah, and then you say, right, go to the internet.
Go create a form.
This is great though, because again, filling up. I mean, this is a productivity win for organizations that need to train individuals. The feedback loop is always the piece that's been missing, right?
Yeah.
Immediate feedback loop, it's so that you can see. I mean, you can see it on a daily, hourly basis and say, oh, that's a gap, and you go create content or add content around what that answer is.
Well, I'm going to just use us as an example. We're in a service.
We don't have any gaps. What are you talking
we're in a service provider industry, and we keep we think we're keeping a tight thumb on our KPIs, how we're performing, what we think the heat map of our customer is, what's their pain point. But I would love to get to a point where we put it into an AI model, because I think we would be shocked at where we don't even realize where we're struggling.
Yeah, it's like help us. Like, where should we spend our time most efficiently? Like, where can we add the most value?
Tom, are you Tom M? Are you seeing companies start to deploy this? Think about deploying. Where do you see it in a product life cycle for organizations right now? I feel like it's in its infancy right now. So
they're dipping their toe in the risk averse way, right? So it's transcription, summarization. So that's the thing agents have to do all the time, right? Is summarize this call. So that's a nice easy one where you've got real time transcription. It's like quickly summarize the call. Other things are like some of the compliance stuff. So like first, in the first 5 minutes, was the compliance statement read out? If it wasn't, do something about it. What percentage of calls, resolved in looking at the last 5 minutes of transcript for call resolution, that sort of stuff. Analyzing for like silence on calls, because that tends to be kind of an awkward silence if you've called up to get something done. It's things like that are more providing data for reporting and stuff like that than it is any kind of customer impacting. As we were saying earlier, it's that kind of companies don't want to look stupid. So it's that's where we're sort of seeing it a lot.
Tom M, here's a question for you. Do you see in the kind of the bigger contact center space, do you see AI kind of taking the role of the traditional coaching route, where I might be a supervisor, I might, pick up the phone and whisper in and coach the agent? Do you see AI eventually becoming that
it's interesting.
Kind of real-time coach?
We see something kind of similar, which is where that gets presented. So what I mean is, sort of as you're talking, the real-time transcription is happening, and then the agent is being prompted with documents that the AI thinks will answer the question. So it's kind of like having someone on your side feeding you the bits of the manual you probably need to know. We could definitely get to the point of like that AI-generated whisper. That would be really interesting.
The reason I ask is you mentioned like, hey, did you read the compliance statement? Can you, I just think about, maybe you hit 6 minutes or 5 minutes and 1 second, and AI whispers back in. And says,
I see. Yeah. We totally will get there. I think we're we're a little behind on the technology at the moment. And what I mean by that is like doing that analysis of the transcription, figuring out that the compliance statement that's not quite a real-time activity yet, right? So it's more reporting it to be like, you should probably go and tell this agent he keeps forgetting or she keeps forgetting to do the compliance statement. I think we'll definitely get there. You know, you could imagine like the portal starts flashing and the agent starts getting all these warnings 5 minutes in. It's like, you still haven't done the compliance statement, you know? Yeah.
Tom, if you threw the compute at it, tell me I'm wrong if I'm wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Like you could do that within minutes. So you could certainly be like, 5 minutes into the call, you were supposed to say this within the first 2 minutes. So now I know you haven't said it. So it wouldn't be real time, but it could be.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
If you kept feeding the transcript through the engine.
Yep. Yeah, no, you definitely could. Yep.
Yeah, good stuff.
That is good stuff. Like, this is what's interesting is I'm sitting here wondering how geeky we all kind of are, because we all dig this stuff a lot. This is funny. It's like,
well, I mean, this is super impactful. Like, we've got a bit into the weeds, but we're talking about, essentially changing the way education works, changing the way CX works. Like, it's going to be the next 24 months going to be super interesting.
And the next 24 months for the next 10 or 15 years, like communications as from a service perspective is rapidly changing for the organizations. I feel like there's we just talked about how there's a base of PBX customers out there that are just so far behind if they've got physical infrastructure still in their organization.
Yeah, we're busy talking about AI changing the world, and they're trying to like deal with their old Mitel.
It's crazy. It's still out there, and for them, I mean, this is all just like it's way too much to understand and organize. But this is in consumable packets with the right partner, with the right group. It's all fairly consumable, and when you kind of hop on the train, right? Like, it's the first step. You just kind of hop on that little Teams phone train.
Yeah, it gets to the cloud.
It leads you down a path that is just a productivity sort of snowball. So pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, and I think it proves, like, as we're having this conversation, it proves what we've talked about in the past about PSTN and voice just becomes another component of the ecosystem. It's always traditionally been, there's my phone, I use my phone exclusively for this business case, but now voice is just a piece of the whole picture that's going on. And I think a lot of companies aren't ready to embrace that yet.
I'm going to go back to some CX stuff, Tom, since you're sitting at the CX expo there. So what are we still, from a contact center perspective, are we still seeing phone dominate, voice calls dominate that industry? And is that shift starting to happen to chat, mail?
The shift is happening. It is happening, and more people are wanting to start that conversation on a website somewhere, for lots of reasons. It's still at the point where PSTN needs to be there as an option. Like, I don't think you could launch a contact center today that didn't have PSTN as an option. Just because, like, it just feels like it's the backup solution, right? It's the thing that always works, and there's still a class of people that's the right thing for. But it's just, there is this growing group of people that will start off, maybe it's just chat. If I can just get it done chat, that's better. But people like to talk to people, right? So being able to take that chat and go to voice, all in the same experience without having to explain yourself again, that's really useful. And post-pandemic, everyone's got headsets. Everyone is quite comfortable doing these voice calls over IP on smartphones and computers and stuff like that. It's not the adoption challenge it was, I don't think, kind of out in the real world. So, it's kind of how it feels at the moment.
I was wondering, because more and more I find myself, and I'm probably older than dirt, but I find myself more and more engaging in web chat as a solution, as a way to gain a solution to something. And so if I'm doing it, I feel like this is it's like the first reach for anyone younger than I am.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this in another conversation. Like, the younger generation are chat by default between their own communications as well. They're just, everything is chat to them. So it makes sense they would want support and help over chat as well.
There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with web chat and that voice, and even voice, like click to call stuff. We're going to see a lot of innovation in this area. So coming back to the Gen AI stuff, actually you do your click to call or your web chat to your agent. The agent gets the summary. Like, Rick's been on this site for 30 minutes. He searched 3 times for car insurance. He's clicked all around the home insurance section. He just can't find where he's going. Like, probably what he wants is to do some car insurance, whatever it is. Stuff like that, like being able to summarize some really verbose logs, an awful lot of web traffic very quickly. Like, yeah.
It's interesting because you do hear about the kind we talked about earlier, the following of the voice transcription, right? But not necessarily the chat transcription or the chat kind of following you. So that's pretty cool where the chat information follows you as well. So again, you don't have to retype everything. You get the same information. Huh. That's cool stuff.
Yeah, and there's some amazing, like the coming back again to the web chat, that gets better and better the more and more data you put into it. I saw some really good Microsoft-led demos of their Azure OpenAI stuff in the retail space that ingests the data about your order history and like the things all that sort of stuff. So when you go to it and say like I'm looking for a thing, it does really good recommendations because it knows so much about you. So yeah, rather than just a sort of generic like, well, yeah, here's the thing you might like.
All right, so Tom A, what else was that Ignite that we should know about?
Yes, we've got a lot on rooms. So Microsoft continue to invest there. They're trying to make it fast to deploy, easier to deploy. One of the big things was one-time passwords. So if you work with an AV partner, you don't have to give them your user accounts anymore. You can give them a one-time code. They can go to site. They can plumb the room in. They can put the one-time code in, and you can do the remote setup. And that's a little thing, but for rollouts, that makes life so much easier.
Oh, we're part of a group, I think, that we see all of the teams. I don't know this is a true question, unrehearsed and everything. It's off the cuff here.
Not like the carefully rehearsed.
Not like all the other stuff. In Europe, are Teams rooms a bigger business than they are in North America right now?
I don't know what the breakdown is. I mostly work with international customers, but I mean, Teams rooms has been double-digit growth for like 9 quarters or something crazy from a Microsoft perspective. And rooms is a big project for customers. So like it's rolling out tens, maybe hundreds of time. You get into the likes of BP and people like that, and it's thousands of rooms. So it is a significant business. But what's interesting is Microsoft are, like they do with phone, like they do with everything, they're a software company. They're looking to simplify, commoditize, and scale. So they're like, make this easier, make it drop ship, make it sub 4 hours deployment. That's their motion, which is exciting for customers, obviously interesting for partners and scaling and stuff, but that's where it's going.
I'm seeing more and more of the equipment come out that is like super easy to install. No PC that's required on top of it. The AI sits in the bar.
Yeah.
It's like put a bar on a TV and put a mic down and you've got a room for 6 people just ready to roll.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what Microsoft want to see is like and increasingly these all-in-one units with the screen where you don't even have to mount. Like you just roll the thing in and you later you move office, you roll the thing out. So you don't have to worry about sockets and mounting and cat and all this, kind of hard AV stuff. And like you say, the AI thing's interesting because those bars will get better at adapting to the environment. We see this in consumer world when you set up a AV system now, it'll ask you to walk around with your iPhone and it'll listen to the echo and the bounce. That stuff's got to come to enterprise tech at some point.
One of the things, just from a rooms perspective, while you were speaking, I was listening, but then I was reminded of something that I heard from a best practice perspective, and I'm curious if this holds true and if you think this is the way to go. There are 20 rooms to the one big room, but the one big room is what everyone tries to solve for first, and the other rooms are the 6-person room. You throw up a bar and here's the thing, and you're done in 5 minutes, right? Is attacking the smaller rooms first something that organizations should be looking at versus let me worry about how I'm going to do this 5-camera, 20-foot long table sort of installation?
Yeah, I mean, like classic consultant, right? But what's the business requirement here? Are you trying to enable everybody to be more productive? Is that the ROI? In which case, like actually small rooms are easy, super cost effective. Is it the execs need to have this perfect, pristine meeting. Historically, all the budget has gone to those exec rooms, and actually they have one meeting a month.
Right.
So you're spending hundreds of K maybe on these multi-camera crazy rooms, and it's cool when everybody gets excited about it, and that's where the budget is. But to your point, actually, for the same budget, if we lit up 10 rooms to let our people work together, is that more productive than just spending all this money on the single room?
Jimmy, Michelle, Tom A agrees with you. So that's super interesting though, because that's what you find, and everybody's trying to solve for that one big room. I didn't know, and I thought this was pretty interesting, that Teams rooms, the management console, has some statistics in there, or KPIs that show you from a productivity perspective how much you're saving.
Yeah. The Pro Portal, the Teams Rooms Pro Portal has a lot of stats, and actually Ignite, they added in a BYOD option, so Teams will start understanding based on USB plugins what shared spaces that just have cameras and mics, so kind of bring your own device type scenarios. It will log all of that, and you can start working out which of my spaces are used the most, where should I invest, where should I potentially add a booking system to them with Teams. So yeah, more and more data in that Pro Portal as well.
Okay, so this is one that doesn't have anything to do with phone, and maybe Tom M, you've got an answer for this one, maybe, or Tom A, but this is something that I heard was coming. I didn't get a chance to see it, but saying something, and I'm not sure what app it is, but drawing something for me. So if I wanted to create a Visio, I could say, this is what I want to
visualize, whiteboard visualize.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So it's whiteboard. So it's taking the transcript potentially and saying we want to have a conversation, but put these ideas on the Teams whiteboard. So I think that's not GA yet, but it's coming. But again, it's another Copilot use case. If you've got all this data, how do you bang it into the whiteboard to start the conversation?
That's pretty exciting, because me and Visio, we get along pretty well.
It's going to be a very busy board.
But
we've had like 10 ideas.
It won't make his board won't make sense. AI is just going to be like spaghetti.
That's what happens when you've got like ADD or ADHD or something like that. You've got like 18 different things going on at once. It's all right. It all comes together.
Yeah.
AI is going to help me bring it together. Okay, what else we have? What else was interesting? Tom Morgan, you got anything else interesting that you think is going to be pretty impactful for enterprises and/or ISVs even?
Good question. I think no, I don't think so. I think we've kind of covered it. I think there's enough going on. I don't think we want any more. There's actually, I will say, yesterday, was it yesterday or even the day before? Yesterday or the day before at ESPC, there was an announcement around SharePoint Embedded, which is kind of a new thing. As a developer, that's kind of interesting. It means that I can build my own apps as a sort of as an ISV or as an in-house developer. I can build apps, but all of the data lives inside the SharePoint instance of the tenant and is secured and all the rest of it. So I don't have to spin up my own data store. I don't have to spin up my own app servers and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of interesting. That will land, I think, really well with a lot of enterprises who want to really keep everything self-contained and keep everything in one place. But still, allow developers to build solutions and stuff. So that's going to be interesting. That's worth keeping an eye on as well, I think. Yeah.
All right, very good. Brandon, any final thoughts?
Oh, it's been great. I think each time we get you guys on the show, I think we always end up down a rabbit trail, but I find it really interesting. Hopefully our listeners do too. There's so much coming. It's, maybe it looks like a tidal wave, but it's a lot of good stuff.
If you need phones on your desk, okay, we're gonna get real old school here. But if you need phones on your desk and you need Teams Phone, Teams Phone's a great PBX. It's just standalone phone system. It works fantastic. And then all the stuff that we talk about all day, every day is the direction that things are going.
Yeah, you'll be on the right platform. You don't have to do all this stuff the first thing, like get to the cloud first, which is basically, like you say, you could just replace your phones. You can have keypads, you can have DDIs, classic stuff.
Yeah.
But now you're on a platform that when you're ready, you've got the AI. When you're ready, you've got the click to call, all that good stuff.
And that's the important thing. I mean, that's really important. Just get on, because all this stuff you can piecemeal, you can add later. You can see how what's the use case for your business, all those things, but it's the right platform. There was a really popular phrase years and years ago, and probably still popular, but future-proofing your organization, right? Future-proofing, that was the big thing. And I feel like you truly, if you're on Microsoft Teams as a phone system, you're truly future proofing your organization.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see, you know, like you bring up that point about future proofing, and you know, go back 10, 15 years, we were selling future proof solutions. You know, it'll be interesting to see in the next 5 years, is Microsoft the future proof?
Yeah, I mean, the cloud, the cloud is the thing, isn't it? We were always selling things before. Now we're selling platforms. So I mean, it sort of has to be future. Whether you're doing the same thing in 5 years, you're probably not, but you're on the platform that will give you the options.
You answered the question that I was just going to ask. Because I think if the way that I look at it as a carrier, I look at it and go, the faster I can get a customer onto Teams, the longer I'll have that customer's revenue, right? So because I look at it, and I'm not the creative guy, but I can't see past Microsoft Teams right now, because the development just continues to create an immersive sort of product that just keeps you engaged in all sorts of modalities. So what's beyond that?
Yeah, and if you as an operator have got the muscle to do it, you can add on all this AI capability, this custom dev, the extra features, the contact center. There's a lot of areas for you to add value if you're in the mix and on that journey.
Yeah, very good, very good. Okay, well, everyone, I think that's going to be a wrap. We're live in London, and we're going to have some tea, and
I'll give the room to you
hi,
again.
hi, everyone. We're going to have some tea and some Dunkers. But I want to thank Tom A. for coming out, visiting us personally here. Tom Morgan for hopping out of a really busy expo and spending some time with us and kind of updating us on what came out of Microsoft from a dev perspective. And thank you guys very much. Just, you guys are always great to talk to and super insightful. And you give us, I got 2 pointers. I got 2 free pointers out of this one. So although we'll probably get a bill from Tom later. But okay, that's a wrap. That's episode 43. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us from London Live. We'll see you guys later next time. Bye.
Thanks.